For my next video, I'm going to show how we can take our existing accordion book fold and alter it to create a more dynamic and three-dimensional form incorporating pop-up elements. I use a series of alternating cuts and tabs to relieve the peaks and valleys of each fold in an alternating direction to give me this dynamic structure. So I've already created a pattern, as you can see, 2 tabs about 1/2 inch wide on the top and bottom, and about a 1-inch tab in the valleys of the book. We refer to these as the peaks and these as the valleys. So I'm going to replicate that in the signature that I just created. Which I have already marked slightly. We'll start with the valley and cut about a 1-inch tab. I can measure, so I have reference points. I want to cut in only on that valley fold, although technically it looks like a peak in this instance. This is how you cut it. Cut in about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. I'll relieve another 3/4 of an inch to an inch. You want to try to keep those as even as possible in terms of the depth of the cut. So if you're a little off, you can always just go in a little bit more. Looks like so. Now I will alternate, isolate one more peak. I've already marked very slightly my 1/2 inch marks, but I'll do it just for example. Make a simple tab right there and a simple tab right there. I'll do 2 at the top or another one at the top. Just a simple reference point. Same thing. I'll relieve this isolated peak about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Just snipping in and trying to keep the depth of the cut as close as possible and trying to keep the cut as parallel to the paper as possible. Parallel in this direction. Trying to keep the depth of the cut similar in both instances. If I really wanted to be particular, I could also cross-check right here. And I see that I gotta go in just a little bit more right there. So I'll just relieve it just a touch more. All right. Now I have 2 slots right here and 1 slot right here. I'll also alternate one more time. Isolate another valley. Cut about a 1-inch slot, 1 inch wide, 1 inch deep. Making sure that they'll match. Oops, sometimes you go back and forth a little bit. And now we have something that looks like this. You'll then press inwards on the slot that you just relieved, kind of pushing it through itself. You'll then fold the signature, allowing that little slot to collapse and press down. This has allowed the paper now to have volume and relieve it on the front and the peak of the fold. Do the same in the alternating direction. It can be a little bit trickier when you have multiple tabs that need to fold, but you press that inwards and let it collapse somewhat on itself. Same thing, you press this inwards, let it collapse somewhat on itself. Then I like to fold paper down to reinforce that crease, and this is where you can try to keep it as even as possible. Same thing. Reinforce the crease with your folder. Now you've created the next step in your undulating pattern. Do the same. Relieve, press inwards, collapse the signature. It'll have a little bit of a rounded crease at first, and then you just want to kind of use some pressure to even it out as best as possible. Press down, a little uneven, but it's okay. Now you have this undulating, alternating form. I leave, just for the sake of my own accuracy, I don't cut this tab yet until I join it to my existing accordion pop-up book. Same principle as before. I will glue this tab right here along my terminating page of my existing book. So I'm going to apply some glue. Same thing, keep it off the edge. Apply. You don't want too much glue because you don't want it to seep out from the seam, but you don't want too little either, or otherwise you'll have bad lamination. Join the two pieces. Fold over. This can be a little clumsy sometimes, but make sure that they're totally joined. Press down along that tab. Then reinforce with your bone folder to really get that lamination sealed. Now I've extended my pop-up book an additional signature. However, I still have one tab that I just laminated and that created a new peak that needs to be trimmed. I don't cut that because I want to wait until both pieces are joined. Normally I wait a few minutes till the glue is dry, but for the sake of this demo, I will just go ahead and observe that I have two 1-inch tabs in the middle on both sides of it. So I want to make sure I have my two 1/2-inch tabs on the top and bottom. Relieve, cut another relief. It's a little reinforced because there's two pieces of paper glued together. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. Then, similar as before, you just press that in on both the top and the bottom. Oh. Make sure that it actually begins to fold. And then you let it collapse on itself. Line it all up. Press it down. Reinforce the fold. Ooh, careful not to peel it up. Now I have an even longer pop-up book than before. Could even join these together on the ends, collapse the entire thing down, or I can allow it to have volume. The choice is really up to you. It's a great way to create volume with paper. Thank you.